Hanau kumulipo I ka pō, he kāne. Hanau po'ele I ka pō, he wahine. Hanau ka uku.
In a Hawaiian creation chant called the Kumulipo, the origin of coral, algae, and fishes is described. After a time of darkness, the coral polyp was the first earth life to emerge, then a coral colony. Eventually, all plants and animals would follow this genesis out of the sea. There are Hawaiian legends and stories of gods and goddesses who live in the ocean and take the form of underwater creatures. Many myths explain why certain fish have stripes or look the way they do, or why they gather in certain places. Powerful protective spirits, or aumakua, watch over and guard human families for generations. Some of these are at home in the surrounding sea. Hawaiian islands are composed of lava that escaped the Earth's core through undersea vents. It all started about 70 million years ago. As the ocean floor moves slowly in a northwest direction, the center of activity forms new islands, while the older ones are chiseled by wind, rain, and the sea. The coral colonies begin to grow within 25 years on new lava flows and slowly establish fringing reefs. These subtropical Hawaiian reefs are some of the most beautiful in the world, comprised of thousands of species of fish, mollusks, and other plants and animals. It's here that we'll take you to this unfamiliar world, to the ancient land of Hawaii that few have seen before. The urge to explore the undersea realm began thousands of years ago when man thought it was inhabited by monsters. As time went on, all sorts of devices were concocted to plummet the ocean depths. Imagination ran wild, and pioneers like Jules Verne created machines and heroes of fancy that actually live 20,000 leagues under the sea. But maybe this isn't so absurd after all. Science has almost caught up with fiction. In just a century, submarine technology has advanced to a point where we can remain submerged hundreds of feet for weeks at a time. Each year, the possibilities increase, bringing Captain Nemo's ultimate diving machine closer to reality. At the forefront of submersible technology, Atlantis Submarines discovered a new and very refreshing concept: passenger-carrying subs that take peaceful and inobtrusive tours to the rich reef zones, where visitors can comfortably witness firsthand the undersea environment. This is the story of Atlantis, the first passenger submersible in the world. The Big Island of Hawaii is the largest and youngest island in the Hawaiian archipelago. Molten lava still pours into the sea. It's a battle between the forces of fire and water that eventually the ocean will win. On Kona's western or sheltered coast, reef-building corals have begun to colonize over a network of lava flows. This was the first Hawaiian reef Atlantis submarines would explore. Arriving in 1988, they received a warm aloha and have been at home ever since. This area of Kona has many wahipana, what Hawaiians call storied places. On the shuttle ride out to the submarine, the historic Kona coastline can be seen resting on the long slopes of Mauna Loa, the most massive mountain on Earth. Atlantis lies waiting to take these passengers on a tour they'll never forget. In air-conditioned comfort, the 48-passenger, 65-foot sub travels in an area where gardens of coral are already visible through the individual viewports, 13 on each side. Maintaining a speed of about 1 knot through this shallow expanse, the young reef and its inhabitants are introduced. The pilot's front viewing window is over 4 feet in diameter. Pilots for Atlantis are specially trained to operate this DC battery-powered electric submarine, a marvel of technology. There are 2 stern thrusters, 2 vertical thrusters, and 1 at the bow for careful maneuvering. Above water, the support boat pilot keeps watch and constant contact with the sub, and divers prepare to put on a show underwater. As the Atlantis sub moves out to meet the divers, shoals of fish move in all directions, illuminated by the sun. A safe distance is maintained above the delicate corals so as not to damage the living creatures there. Reefs grow only about an inch a year. The pilot and co-pilot monitor the distance from the bottom at all times. The divers arrive. They can only stay down 10 minutes at a time at this depth of about 85 feet. The fish that immediately surround them are common in all Hawaiian waters. Schools of surgeonfish called palani and pu'alu have razor-sharp blades near the end of their tails. Humuhumu ele are the ones that seem to flap wings through the water. These are triggerfish or black durgeon. The black and white striped fish are Hawaiian sergeant majors or mamo, a kind of damselfish. And the yellow school is blue-striped snapper or ta'ape, an introduced fish from Tahiti. Now in great abundance, they're seen on every dive. When it comes to food, they're not very shy. Small millet seed butterfly fish, or lauvilivili, make a more timid approach. There's a rhythm down here that has nothing to do with the world above, an interaction based on hunger and curiosity. Carefully selected examples of reef life are gathered to show close up to the passengers, like this small sea urchin. It's respectfully placed back on the reef in its own little niche. A Triton's trumpet is brought to the viewports. This shell was called pupuhi and was fashioned into musical instruments. The divers' 10 minutes are not complete without showing off. They don't leave the scene until everyone's had some laughs. There are 44 species of coral in Hawaiian waters. Small animals live within the polyps and feed on plankton drifting in the water. Their hard skeletons form limestone, the only organically made rock in the world. Sand is continually made through erosion of shells and coral and from the digested matter of coral-eating fish. One adult parrotfish, or uhu, can produce up to 1 ton of sand a year by munching on the reef and eliminating the waste matter. The coral gardens support a bounty of life. Tiny particles of plankton floating in the ocean become food for reef fishes. These surgeonfish are vegetarians and feed on debris and algae on the sandy bottom. Smaller reef fish stay close to their coral homes, and each has a role to play in this balanced ecosystem. There's a logic to the dance of aggression and survival. 25% of Hawaii's fish are endemic or found only in these waters. Isolated from other land masses for so long, they have evolved unique characteristics. These yellow tangs were called lau'ipala in Hawaiian. They're eating small particles of algae in the coral. The similar-looking black gold ring variety is called kole. All butterfly fish were called kikakapu. The ornate butterflies swim in pairs like most of the other 22 species in island waters. The raccoon butterfly fish is one of the most flamboyant. Hawaiians were inspired to be more descriptive with the long-nosed butterfly fish, the lauvilivili nukunuku oi oi, meaning the little fish with a long nose shaped like a vilivili leaf. Many fish species change color and sex during their life cycles. Often a male, female, and juvenile look entirely different. Wrasses are the most versatile and striking of the color changers. One of the most enchanting fish on the reef is the Moorish idol, or kihi-kihi. They search the vicinity for sponges to eat. Moray eels hide out in their adopted holes, brilliantly camouflaged. An octopus, or he'e, peers out of a crevice. A stranger inhabitant of the reef is the trumpetfish. These predators can change color to match their environment for a better disguise. Their mouths are designed to vacuum in unsuspecting prey. They can turn yellow when lau'ipala are nearby. Pufferfish resemble something from another planet. This spotted puffer is a slightly different species called o'opu hu'e. O'opu means stomach in Hawaiian. As a defense mechanism, puffers blow up like a balloon when agitated. All of these species can be clearly seen from the Atlantis viewports, a world witnessed before only by divers. Sometimes larger predators appear in deeper water. This is a rare view of the white-tipped reef shark. Sharks, or mano, play a large part in Hawaiian myth and folklore, said to save or protect their human families. graceful manta rays glide over the sand, their wingspan sometimes reaching 20 feet. After a 50-minute tour, so much more is known about this underwater world that changes every day. The sub lands briefly in a sandbank about 85 feet down and prepares for a signal to surface. As inobtrusively as it appeared, the Atlantis sub leaves the coral wilderness as it was. More than 2 million people have journeyed on Atlantis subs somewhere the world over since 1985. At a cost of $3.5 million, each sub is flawlessly designed and built to the highest standards, thoroughly inspected and certified for 150-foot dives. Atlantis has a home in 7 other locations, including the Caribbean, Mexico, and Guam. But it was a natural choice to come to Hawaii to reveal some of the glories of its unique underwater environment. The island of Maui was formed by the activity of 2 volcanoes. Haleakala, or House of the Sun, is the youngest. The older volcano is composed of deeply eroded cliffs and lush valleys, forming the West Maui Mountains. A partial fringing reef has had time to establish itself off of Maui's protected shorelines. A shallow shelf connects the islands of Maui, Molokai, Lanai, and Kaho'olawe, having all been one island before the sea level dropped thousands of years ago. Endangered humpback whales find this particularly inviting and visit every winter to mate and give birth in these warmer waters. The Maui Atlantis tour out of Lahaina Harbor is special because the submarine will journey to the deepest it can go, 150 feet. It's a 2-mile shuttle trip out to the boarding site with a spectacular view. Atlantis slowly descends into deep blue liquid space. She will submerge about 9